Dubai is clearly the place to visit. It's designed to attract you. It's an attractive place. It's pizzazz. It's everything you want to do from an enjoyable business trip. Abu Dhabi, it's slightly less Western. It's more bureaucratic, but there's less Western competition. So really, business is easier to win in Abu Dhabi, although slightly harder to set up. Qatar, the mentality is very different. It's come, help us out, and then go. They're not looking for long-term partnerships in Qatar, but they have some very real opportunities, perhaps slightly more American than the other states. There's a large American base in Doha, but on the same score, it's also the home of Al Jazeera television. So it really is a country of extremes. Doing business is very bureaucratic, can be very time-consuming, because it's a very new nation, but it's there and very receptive to UK ideas, and they do value UK products and services very highly. Saudi Arabia is complicated to get into. It's complicated to make partnerships, but the affection for UK business, the desire to buy British products, the desire to be seen with British products and services is enormous. So the reception you'd receive in Saudi Arabia would be one of the warmest you'd receive once you finally manage to get into the country. The Gulf states have one common factor. If you want to be successful, they have to like you. An Arab will only deal with his friends. He'll only deal with somebody he likes, he can trust. And that invariably means meeting them 3 or 4 times. It may take 6 months, it may take a year to get into the inner circle of contacts with your potential client. First meetings often will be to talk about football, wives, anything but not business. And at the end of the meeting there may be a very short 2 or 3 minute discussion about business. That's how they work. They want to see how you are, if there's somebody they can like, if somebody they can trust. So the key message is that setting up in the in the GCC states, setting up anywhere in the region, does involve time, investment of time, getting to know the markets, but more importantly, making the contacts, because business in the GCC states is won by good contacts, by good partners, not through low price or through flashy presentations. So I think that's the message I give to people, is you're in for the long haul. You must go to see a market 2 or 3 times, and then and only then will you become liable to receive any tenders or opportunities. Companies that go into the GCC states often make one major error, and that's considering Dubai as the be-all and end-all of their export opportunity. Dubai is a very important market, but it is tiny compared with the rest of the GCC. So the first lesson that I'm often teaching companies is to think wider than Dubai. Abu Dhabi, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, they're all markets that offer huge opportunities. The second mistake they believe is that the oil-producing states in the GCC are awash with funds, and a simple trip to the GCC will bring back hordes of investment. It doesn't work. The Arabs will not invest unless they know, unless they trust you. And the third mistake they make ties in with that, is the need to develop relationships with Arab clients. It's a 2, 3, 4 or even 5 times visit that is needed to try and build that trust, build that relationship in order to win business. And if companies are not prepared to go in for the long haul, if they're not prepared to develop those relationships on a personal basis, they will not win business. How they will fare will be very, very different. Abu Dhabi will fare slightly better. It does have oil. It is the seat of government, and it hasn't set itself such a high standard of living or such a high standard of operation that there isn't still gains to be had. Qatar has just increased its LNG exports, and I'm sure, I have no doubt, that the Qatar will suffer slightly from the global downturn, but it has enough reserves, it has enough export potential that it will be able to ride quite high for the foreseeable future. Saudi Arabia won't notice. It has such vast reserves. It produces so much oil compared with the rest of the states that it will be able to cover any losses or potential impact of the credit crunch from its own reserves. 2 common areas of opportunity for UK business across the region is education and healthcare. There are huge healthcare issues in the GCC. Genetic problems, genetic diabetes is a big problem, and money is being offered around in great quantities to help them with their genetic diabetic problems. Education too, any British company involved in education or training, there is a market in all three. They're all very, very keen to develop their own populations. They see UK training providers as the top notch and are more than receptive to the ideas of British training and educational providers. So that's true for all the states. In Saudi Arabia, in fact in all three markets, construction and infrastructure opportunities exist. As we said, Dubai is slowing down slightly, but Dubai's infrastructure development continues at pace, and Saudi Arabia's new infrastructure developments, they're building 2,000 kilometres of rail in the next few years. They're building 4 new cities, each capable of housing 250,000 people. So the opportunities exist in infrastructure and all the allied industries, the design, planning, traffic movements, etc., etc. So the opportunities are in construction across the region. Power and water desalination, again, very common. There's problems of water in all of the states. Desalination is a big area, storage of water. Clean coal, clean combustion, solar power. Yes, there's interest, and I think UK firms will be wise to look at those opportunities. Maybe not immediately available, but in the near and short term. So I think that's probably the key areas: education, training, information technology, construction, and of course oil and gas, but in Saudi Arabia, Qatar and Abu Dhabi. A couple of case studies that come to mind is a company, Bemrose Booth. I recently accompanied them on a visit to Qatar and Saudi Arabia. They are security printers. They print scratch cards for the telecommunications industry, but also checkbooks, bank cards, etc., etc. I took them to Saudi Arabia. They had a meeting with Zain, one of the incumbent telephone operators, and as a result of that meeting, they left with a tender opportunity to produce 25 million scratch cards immediately. Without UKTI's advice and support and accompaniment, they wouldn't have had that opportunity. So that's a case study of where UKTI has added value. Another one is a chance meeting, again in Saudi Arabia, with a well-known, respected sheikh who asked me if I knew any companies in the UK that produce laboratory equipment. Further discussion and a meeting the following day at the British Embassy identified he had a contract in his pocket for $1 billion to be spent over 10 years from the Saudi government to equip the laboratories at a new university being built. He was very keen on recruiting UK companies. I've come back to the UK, met with several trade associations, companies, and I'm taking a delegation of companies to Dubai to meet him in early January. So case studies, yes, there are many case studies that I can think of companies setting up in all three markets. And soon, I hope, there'll be rewards.